On the distant colony planet of Varela, the morning sun cast pale light over the settlement of Terran. Humans and aliens lived here side by side, although trust was fragile and peace was delicate. Captain Ethan Hayes stood on the observation deck of the Starfire, his eyes scanning the planet below. He had been here many times, but something felt different today. There was a quiet unease in the air, a sense that something terrible was about to happen. Around him, the crew prepared for the day's patrol. Lily Brooks, the ship's pilot, adjusted her controls with a precise and careful motion, while Jason King, the engineer, checked and rechecked the ship's systems. The Starfire had seen battle before, but it was never easy. They had learned that every mission carried risk, and today would be no exception. A sudden alert broke the morning calm. A faint, irregular signal appeared on the sensors, crackling with static. Ethan leaned forward, his brow furrowing. It was a distress signal, weak but desperate. The coordinates pointed to the outskirts of Terran. "Captain, someone is calling for help," Jason said, his voice tense. Lily frowned, her fingers tapping nervously on her console. "It could be a trap," she said. Ethan nodded slowly, weighing the options. Ignoring the call felt wrong, but rushing in could lead to disaster. He took a deep breath. "We can't wait," he said firmly. "If someone needs help, we have to respond. Prepare for immediate jump." The Starfire moved smoothly into position, its engines humming as it left orbit. As they sped through space, the crew felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. They had trained for situations like this, but nothing could fully prepare them for what awaited. The distress signal grew stronger as they approached, but it was still fragmented and chaotic. Ethan studied the readings, trying to make sense of the urgency. The voice was alien, filled with panic, crying out for assistance in a tone that made their stomachs tighten. "This is worse than I imagined," Jason muttered, staring at the sensor display. Lily's hands tightened on the controls. "Hold steady. We don't know what we'll find down there." When the Starfire emerged from hyperspace, the view below was horrifying. Fires burned across the colony, smoke rising in black columns that twisted in the wind. Buildings were reduced to rubble, and scattered debris floated in the air. Small groups of aliens ran through the streets, screaming and trying to escape. Their faces showed fear and confusion, and some were injured, their bodies marked with burns and cuts. Ethan's jaw tightened. "This is bad," he said quietly. He activated the communication channel, sending a message to the survivors. "This is Captain Hayes of the Starfire. We are here to help. Stay calm and move to the marked safe zones." The response was a series of frightened noises and broken sentences, but the urgency was clear. The crew quickly assessed the situation and began planning a rescue operation. Lily maneuvered the Starfire carefully, hovering above the burning buildings as Jason prepared emergency equipment. Ethan coordinated with the crew, assigning tasks and keeping everyone focused. They moved with practiced efficiency, rescuing those they could reach and providing aid to the injured. As they worked, Ethan noticed signs of unusual technology scattered among the wreckage. Devices pulsed with a strange energy, unlike anything he had seen before. Jason examined them with fascination and concern. "This is dangerous, but it could be useful," he said, carefully handling one of the devices. The crew was aware that every action carried risk, and using unknown technology was not without consequence. Meanwhile, scouts reported movement on the horizon. Zarkon's forces were still present, patrolling and hunting survivors. The humans knew that any hesitation could be deadly. Ethan made the decision to strike preemptively, hoping to gain an advantage before the enemy could organize a counterattack. He gathered the crew and outlined a plan. They would conduct a rapid strike on the forward enemy positions, disrupting their operations and buying time for the civilians. Lily's eyes widened at the danger, but she nodded, trusting Ethan's judgment. Jason prepared the alien devices, carefully calibrating them for use in combat. The Starfire descended into the colony, dodging fire and explosions as the crew executed their plan with precision. Every second was tense, with lives hanging in the balance. They moved from street to street, rescuing survivors and eliminating threats. The aliens they saved looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and awe. Realizing that these strangers had come to their aid despite the danger, Ethan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but he remained focused. He knew that hesitation could cost lives. The crew pushed forward, encountering pockets of resistance and obstacles at every turn. Jason's use of the alien devices created unexpected effects, confusing and scattering Zarkon's forces. Lily's piloting was flawless. weaving through the chaos with agility and skill. The humans managed to secure a temporary safe zone, allowing survivors to gather and receive treatment. As night fell on the colony, Ethan and his crew took a moment to regroup. The fires still burned, and the threat of Zarkon's return was ever present. They knew this was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. The survivors expressed gratitude, their eyes filled with tears and hope. The humans had arrived in response to one cry for help, but they had unleashed a force that would change the course of the battle. Ethan looked at his crew, seeing determination and courage reflected in their faces. They had faced fear and uncertainty and had acted decisively to protect those in need. He knew that the coming days would test them further, but he also knew that they had the skill, the will, and the heart to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The first part of the mission was complete, but the real test was yet to come. The Starfire remained vigilant, ready to defend the colony and unleash total hell on any enemy that dared threaten those who could not protect themselves. After securing the temporary safe zone, the crew of the Starfire knew they had only delayed the enemy, not defeated it. Captain Ethan Hayes walked among the survivors, assessing the situation and listening to their stories of horror and escape. Their faces showed exhaustion, fear, and relief all at once. Some were badly injured, and others were terrified of what would come next. Lily Brooks and Jason King worked tirelessly alongside alien medics, treating wounds and reinforcing the makeshift defenses. The Starfire hovered above, ready to deploy assistance at a moment's notice. As they worked, Ethan studied the alien technology they had found earlier. Pulsing devices glimmered in the shadows, and he could feel their power, but he also felt unease. Jason approached him quietly. "Captain, these devices are unstable, but if we use them carefully, they could turn the tide against Zarkon." Ethan nodded, weighing the risk. "We will use them if we must, but only when the moment is right." Night fell over the colony, and the fires from the initial attack cast long shadows across the ruins. Strange noises echoed from the darkened streets, and scouts reported movement on the outskirts. Zarkon's forces were gathering, and it was only a matter of time before they struck again. Ethan called a meeting with the crew and the leaders of the alien survivors. Kale, a strong alien warrior, and Mira, a healer with remarkable skill, joined them. "We must prepare for a counterattack," Ethan said. "We cannot let them destroy what is left of this place." The aliens listened carefully, some nodding in agreement, others skeptical of human intentions. A faction led by Rax, an alien with sharp eyes and distrustful nature, voiced doubts. "Humans are strong, yes, but we have seen what happens when outsiders fight our battles," he said. Ethan met his gaze steadily. "We are here to help. Our fight is for everyone who cannot defend themselves." Despite the tension, the survivors began to organize. Defenses were reinforced, traps were set, and evacuation routes were marked. Ethan assigned duties to his crew and to willing aliens, ensuring that every person had a role. As the hours passed, the Starfire crew noticed strange patterns in the enemy's movements. Zarkon was clever and methodical, setting traps and waiting for humans to make a mistake. Ethan realized that to survive, they would need to anticipate his tactics and strike before he could act. Lily flew reconnaissance missions above the colony, scanning for enemy positions and reporting back with precision. Jason tinkered with the alien devices, adjusting them to create defensive and offensive tools. Kale trained the surviving aliens, teaching them how to work with humans in coordinated attacks. Mira tended to the wounded and ensured morale remained strong. Despite all this preparation, the tension never fully eased. Each day brought new challenges, and every night brought uncertainty. The survivors slept in shifts, ready to wake at a moment's notice. Ethan walked the perimeter of the safe zone, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing on him. The cries for help that had brought them here were not just signals in the void. They were lives at stake, and failure was not an option. As dawn approached, scouts reported movement on the horizon. Zarkon's army was on the march, a dark wave advancing toward the colony. Ethan gathered the crew. "This is it," he said. "We fight not only for ourselves, but for everyone here. Prepare for engagement." The humans and aliens took their positions. Snipers, artillery, and defensive barriers were ready, while the Starfire provided overwatch from above. The air was tense, heavy with the smell of smoke and anticipation. The first clashes were chaotic, with enemy forces testing the defenses. Explosions shook the ground and filled the streets with dust and debris. Lily maneuvered the Starfire with skill, avoiding enemy fire while providing cover for ground units. Jason activated alien devices to create confusion among Zarkon's soldiers, generating flashes of light and energy that disoriented them. The survivors, both human and alien, fought bravely. They had never faced such overwhelming odds, but fear was balanced by courage and determination. For a moment, it seemed the enemy would break through, but coordinated efforts held the line. The battle continued, ebbing and flowing as both sides tested each other. Ethan led charges where needed, demonstrating tactical brilliance and inspiring those around him. Kale fought alongside the humans, his alien strength and skill making him a formidable ally. Mira moved among the injured, her calm presence providing comfort amid chaos. Rax, still skeptical, witnessed the humans' courage and began to reconsider his doubts. The realization that humans would not abandon them began to take root. As the day wore on, the humans and their allies managed to repel the first major wave of Zarkon's forces. Both sides suffered losses and the colony bore further scars, but a fragile hope emerged. Ethan knew that this victory was temporary. Zarkon would return stronger and more relentless. The crew gathered to plan their next move. "We cannot let him recover," Ethan said. "We need to strike before he can gather more strength." Jason nodded, holding a device that pulsed with energy. "We have tools he won't expect," he said. Lily added, "and we can use the Starfire to outmaneuver him." The survivors began to see the humans not just as allies, but as protectors, willing to face impossible odds for their sake. Bonds formed quickly under the pressure of survival, trust growing stronger despite initial suspicion. Night fell again and a tense quiet settled over the colony. Fires smoldered, and distant sounds of enemy scouts reminded everyone that danger was always present. Ethan walked among the survivors, reassuring them and planning the coming attacks. Every step, every decision carried weight, and the crew knew that their actions would determine the fate of many. The first strike against Zarkon had been a success, but the real battle was only beginning. The humans had arrived in response to a cry for help, and they had shown that even in the darkest moments, courage and ingenuity could shine. Ethan and his crew prepared for the next phase, determined to protect the colony and unleash total hell on any enemy that threatened the innocent. They knew that the coming days would test them in ways they could not yet imagine, but they were ready. The fight was far from over, and the humans had only just begun to show what they could do. The Starfire crew spent the next hours preparing for a bold strike against Zarkon's forward base. Captain Ethan Hayes studied the maps of the colony and enemy positions, tracing out every possible route and anticipating the warlord's movements. The survivors, both human and alien, helped reinforce barricades and ready the defensive systems. Kale trained the alien fighters in new techniques, while Mira coordinated with medics to treat the injured and ensure they were battle-ready. Jason King continued to experiment with the alien devices, creating unpredictable effects that could give them an edge. "These devices can be powerful, but we have to use them wisely," he warned. Lily Brooks, the pilot, adjusted the Starfire's engines and weapons systems, preparing for a dangerous maneuver. "We go in fast, hit hard, and get out before they can respond," she said. Ethan nodded. "We have one chance to disrupt them and protect the colony. Let's make it count." As the Starfire descended towards Zarkon's base, the crew felt a mixture of tension and anticipation. The base was heavily fortified, with towers bristling with weapons and patrols moving methodically. Ethan instructed the crew to maintain stealth as long as possible, relying on speed and precision to avoid detection. Lily maneuvered the Starfire with incredible skill, dodging enemy scanners and weaving through narrow passages. Jason deployed one of the alien devices, creating a series of blinding flashes and loud bursts that disoriented the enemy soldiers. Explosions rocked the base, sending smoke and debris into the air. Ethan led a ground team to strike at key enemy positions, coordinating with Kale and the alien fighters. They moved quickly, eliminating guards and disabling defensive turrets. Mira followed closely, ensuring that any wounded were cared for immediately. The first phase of the strike was successful, but the crew knew that Zarkon would respond with overwhelming force. As they advanced, scouts reported incoming reinforcements. Ethan made a split-second decision to press the attack rather than retreat. "We push forward," he said. "We must disrupt their operations completely." The Starfire provided covering fire, targeting enemy artillery and supply lines. Lily's piloting was flawless, dodging incoming missiles and laser fire while providing a platform for Jason to deploy the alien devices strategically. The enemy forces were caught off guard, their formations breaking under the humans' unexpected tactics. Chaos erupted within Zarkon's base. Soldiers struggled to regroup as explosions tore through their ranks. Ethan and Kale led the charge, their combined skill and determination inspiring the others to fight with everything they had. Mira moved through the battlefield, her calm and focused presence saving countless lives. Despite their initial success, the crew faced intense challenges. Traps and hidden defenses slowed their progress, and enemy reinforcements threatened to overwhelm them. Ethan's leadership and quick thinking kept the team coordinated, while Lily's piloting avoided catastrophe after catastrophe. Jason's use of alien technology caused further confusion among Zarkon's soldiers, giving the humans and their allies a critical advantage. The ground and air battles were intense, with both sides suffering losses. The survivors, inspired by the humans' courage, fought fiercely to protect their home. Even Rax, the skeptical alien, saw the humans' determination and began to trust their intentions. By the time the Starfire team reached the heart of the base, they had disabled key structures and destroyed vital supplies. The enemy commander was forced to retreat, and the remaining forces scattered in disarray. Ethan and his team regrouped, taking stock of their accomplishments and losses. The mission had been risky, and the crew knew that Zarkon would retaliate with even greater force. They had made an impact, but the battle for the colony was far from over. As they returned to the safe zone, the survivors celebrated cautiously. Hope had returned, but it was tempered by the understanding that danger still loomed. Ethan addressed the gathered aliens and humans, acknowledging their bravery and resilience. "Today we struck a blow for freedom and survival," he said. "We will continue to protect this colony and all who call it home." The crew prepared for the next phase of their fight, knowing that Zarkon's return would test them further. The Starfire was ready, the survivors motivated, and the humans determined. Together, they had unleashed a strike that would leave a lasting impression on the enemy and rally those who stood for justice and protection. The first major attack had been a success, but the war was only beginning, and the humans had shown that they were a force capable of incredible ingenuity and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. After the daring strike on Zarkon's base, the humans and their alien allies returned to the temporary safe zone to regroup and prepare for what was coming next. The colony bore scars from the recent battles, buildings still smoldered, and injured survivors were being treated with care and urgency. Captain Ethan Hayes walked among the people, listening to their concerns and fears. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him as he considered the next move. Lily Brooks hovered the Starfire above the perimeter, keeping watch for any signs of the enemy. Jason King continued to work with the alien devices, finding new ways to use them defensively and offensively. Kale trained small groups of aliens in coordinated attacks and emergency tactics, while Mira worked tirelessly to heal the wounded and reassure frightened civilians. Despite the temporary calm, tension was thick in the air. Rumors and whispers ran through the surviving aliens, some doubtful of the humans' intentions. Rax, a cautious alien leader, voiced concerns about relying too much on outsiders. "We have seen humans fight," he said, "but we have also seen what happens when their plans fail." Ethan met his gaze calmly. "We are here to help," he said. "Every decision we make is to protect lives, not to claim them." Slowly, Rax began to trust, seeing the humans' commitment and courage firsthand. The group gathered to plan the next step, knowing that Zarkon would not stay idle. Scouts reported enemy forces amassing on the horizon, preparing a massive assault. Ethan and his crew studied the reports carefully, realizing the scale of the threat. They decided that a combination of preparation, strategy, and clever use of the alien devices would be necessary to survive. As they fortified defenses and set traps, the humans and aliens learned to work together seamlessly. Each person had a role, whether fighting, healing, or providing intelligence. The survivors began to feel a sense of hope and unity despite the danger. Over the next hours, scouts brought news of enemy movements. Zarkon's army was advancing in overwhelming numbers, larger than anyone had expected. The humans and their allies prepared for the inevitable battle, knowing that hesitation could be deadly. The Starfire crew coordinated every action, from deploying troops to managing resources. Ethan gave precise orders, anticipating enemy tactics. Lily maneuvered the Starfire to provide maximum support without risking exposure, while Jason used the alien devices to create confusion and fear among Zarkon's forces. Kale and the alien fighters trained the survivors in defensive maneuvers, preparing them for the coming assault. Mira continued her work with the wounded, her calm presence keeping morale strong. As the enemy drew closer, tension reached a peak. Explosions from previous skirmishes still echoed in the distance, and the smell of smoke hung heavy in the air. Ethan gathered the crew for a final briefing. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who cannot defend themselves," he said. "Stay sharp, work together, and we will survive." When the first wave of Zarkon's forces arrived, chaos erupted. Explosions shook the ground, buildings collapsed, and cries of alarm filled the air. The humans and aliens fought with coordination and precision, using traps, defensive positions, and the alien devices to their advantage. Lily piloted the Starfire through dangerous maneuvers, striking enemy formations while avoiding heavy fire. Jason unleashed carefully timed energy bursts, throwing the enemy into disarray. Ethan led charges on the ground, moving between groups to direct tactics and inspire courage. Kale and the alien fighters held their positions with tenacity, pushing back enemy forces despite overwhelming numbers. Mira moved quickly among the injured, her hands steady and calm as she treated wounds under fire. The survivors, both human and alien, fought bravely, motivated by the humans' courage and determination. Even Rax, the initially skeptical alien, joined fully, realizing that cooperation was the only way to survive. Hours passed in relentless combat, each moment a test of endurance, skill, and courage. The human strategies and the alien devices made a difference, preventing the enemy from overrunning the safe zone. Explosions and flashes of energy lit the battlefield, leaving a surreal and terrifying spectacle. At one point, it seemed the enemy might break through, but a combined counterattack led by Ethan and Kale restored order and pushed Zarkon's forces back. Exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone, but they held their ground. As night fell, the survivors took a moment to regroup and tend to the injured. The battle had been intense, and while they had repelled the enemy, they knew Zarkon would return with even greater force. Ethan gathered the crew and the alien leaders. "We have held them off, but the real test is yet to come," he said. "We must be ready for everything." The humans and their allies reinforced defenses, set additional traps, and prepared for the enemy's return. They worked tirelessly through the night, united by the knowledge that survival depended on cooperation and courage. By dawn, the colony was ready for another assault, its defenders vigilant and determined. The humans had proven their strength and ingenuity, earning trust and admiration from the alien survivors. Ethan and his crew understood that the coming battles would be the hardest they had faced, but they were prepared to face them with unwavering resolve. The Starfire hovered silently above the colony, a symbol of hope and power. The humans had arrived in response to one cry for help, and their actions had inspired courage, unity, and resilience among those who had once been helpless. As the first light of day touched the scorched landscape, they knew that the fight for Varela was far from over, and that their combined efforts would be crucial in the battles to come. Zarkon's forces moved closer, a massive wave of soldiers, machines, and deadly devices approaching the colony of Varela. Captain Ethan Hayes and his crew knew this would be the biggest battle they had faced yet. The Starfire hovered over the colony, scanning the horizon for enemy movements. Lily Brooks tightened her grip on the controls, ready to maneuver the ship with precision. Jason King checked the alien devices one last time, ensuring they would function properly in the chaos that was about to unfold. Kale and Mira moved among the survivors, reinforcing defensive positions and keeping morale strong. Every person was prepared for the coming storm. As the enemy advanced, explosions began to shake the colony. Buildings trembled under the force of heavy artillery, and smoke filled the air, carrying the scent of burning debris. The humans and their allies fought with everything they had, striking from prepared positions and using traps and alien devices to create confusion among Zarkon soldiers. The Starfire provided cover, moving rapidly through the sky and firing on key targets. Lily executed daring maneuvers, dodging enemy fire while targeting vulnerable points in their formations. Jason unleashed the alien devices at precise moments, creating powerful bursts of energy that disrupted the enemy and allowed the defenders to regroup. Ethan led ground teams in coordinated attacks, striking at weak points and inspiring courage among the fighters. Kale fought with unmatched strength and skill, leading charges and holding positions that seemed impossible to defend. Mira moved among the injured, her calm presence steadying them and saving lives under fire. The battle raged for hours, the sound of explosions, gunfire, and screams echoing across the colony. Civilians and soldiers alike were caught in the chaos, but the humans and their alien allies maintained discipline and coordination. Rax, once skeptical of the humans, now fought alongside them with full commitment, recognizing their courage and ingenuity. The enemy pressed relentlessly, but every time they advanced, the humans and their allies countered with strategy, skill, and ingenuity. The alien devices created unexpected effects, disorienting Zarkon's soldiers and giving the defenders an edge. As the day wore on, the Starfire executed a risky plan to strike at the heart of the enemy's forces. Lily piloted the ship through a narrow path of enemy fire, allowing Jason to deploy a powerful energy surge. The effect was devastating. A massive explosion rippled through the enemy ranks, scattering soldiers and destroying critical equipment. The humans had unleashed total hell, turning the tide of battle. Ground forces pressed forward, taking advantage of the confusion. Ethan and Kale led a decisive charge, pushing back the remaining enemy soldiers. Mira continued to tend to the injured, her tireless efforts allowing more defenders to return to the fight. The survivors, inspired by the humans' courage and determination, fought with renewed strength. Even those who had doubted the humans now saw them as heroes, their skill and bravery undeniable. Hours passed in relentless combat, and slowly Zarkon's forces began to retreat. The colony had suffered damage and lives had been lost, but the humans and their allies had held their ground and demonstrated extraordinary power and ingenuity. As the dust settled, Ethan surveyed the battlefield. The Starfire hovered silently above, a beacon of hope and strength. The surviving aliens looked to the humans with respect and gratitude, recognizing that their courage had turned a desperate situation into a moment of victory. The humans had answered one cry for help and had unleashed total hell on the enemy, proving their determination, resourcefulness, and willingness to fight for those who could not defend themselves. Ethan gathered the crew and the alien leaders to assess the situation and plan for recovery and future defense. They knew Zarkon might return with even greater force, but the humans and their allies had proven that they could stand against overwhelming odds. The Starfire and its crew had not only protected the colony, but also inspired unity and courage among the survivors. The fight had been brutal and exhausting, but the humans had shown that their resolve and ingenuity could overcome even the deadliest threats. As night fell on the battlefield, the survivors and defenders began to repair, recover, and regroup. They had faced total hell and survived, and the humans had demonstrated what could be achieved when courage, skill, and determination met the call for justice and protection. Ethan and his crew prepared for the next steps, knowing that their actions would echo across the galaxy and leave a lasting mark on Varela and beyond. The battle had ended, but the aftermath left the colony of Varela scarred and battered. Fires still smoldered in some areas, and the cries of the wounded echoed through the streets. Captain Ethan Hayes and his crew walked among the survivors, checking on their well-being and offering comfort where they could. The Starfire hovered overhead, its engines low and steady, providing a watchful presence that reassured both humans and aliens. Lily Brooks adjusted the ship's sensors and systems, ensuring they remained ready in case of another sudden attack. Jason King moved through the wreckage, carefully dismantling damaged alien devices and storing them for future use. Kyle and Mira helped the aliens repair buildings, organize food supplies, and tend to the sick and injured. Despite the destruction, there was a sense of relief that the worst was over, at least for now. Survivors began to gather, speaking of the humans' bravery and how their strategies had turned what seemed like hopeless situations into victories. Rax, once doubtful, now walked beside Ethan, acknowledging the humans' courage. "You have shown us what can be done when you refuse to back down," he said quietly. Ethan nodded. "We fought because it was the right thing to do," he replied. In the days that followed, the humans and their alien allies worked tirelessly to rebuild the colony. Temporary shelters were constructed, and food and water were distributed carefully to prevent shortages. The survivors trained under Kale and Ethan, learning to defend themselves in case of another attack. Jason continued to experiment with the alien devices, creating safer ways to use them to protect the colony. Lily continued to monitor the skies, ensuring that any approaching threats would be detected early. Mira moved among the people, tending to injuries and helping restore hope. Slowly, the colony began to feel alive again. Children played near the repaired buildings, while adults worked together to rebuild homes and infrastructure. The humans had not only defended the colony, but had also inspired its inhabitants to act courageously and resourcefully. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan stood on a ridge overlooking Varela. The fires had died down, and smoke rose in thin lines from the damaged structures. He felt the weight of what they had accomplished and the responsibility that still lay ahead. "We have done our part," he said softly. Lily joined him, her eyes scanning the horizon. "And we will be ready if Zarkon returns," she said. Jason approached, carrying a small alien device carefully contained. "We have tools and strategies now that can make a difference," he added. Kale and Mira joined them, standing among the humans, a symbol of the new trust and unity that had formed. The survivors had begun to see the humans not just as allies, but as protectors, willing to face overwhelming odds to save lives. Word of the humans' bravery spread among neighboring colonies and alien civilizations. Messages of gratitude and offers of alliance arrived, inspired by the courage displayed on Varela. Ethan and his crew knew that their fight was far from over, but they also knew that they had shown what humans were capable of: ingenuity, courage, and the determination to fight for those in need. The Starfire crew prepared for new missions, aware that their actions would continue to shape the future of the galaxy. They had answered one cry for help, and in doing so, had unleashed a force of skill and determination that left a lasting mark. The humans had proven that when faced with impossible odds, they could rise to the challenge, turning fear into courage, chaos into strategy, and desperation into hope. As night fell, the survivors of Varela gathered to honor the humans and their allies, sharing stories of bravery and resilience. Ethan watched from a distance, quietly proud of what they had accomplished. The fight had been long and brutal, but the humans had proven that they could unleash total hell on those who threatened the innocent, and they had inspired hope in those who had once believed all was lost. In the silence that followed, the Starfire rested above the colony, ready for whatever challenges awaited. The humans had arrived, they had fought, and they had shown that courage and ingenuity could change the course of destiny, and for the first time in a long while, Varela felt safe, hopeful, and alive, knowing that the humans would stand by them, ready to face whatever came next.